Hello and welcome to another episode of the Get Sustainable Show by ESBN in partnership with Green Europe Today and Livestream Studio. My guest today is Jeremy Cordery, Chief Operating Officer and founder of MDC², one of the leading developers of sustainable warehouse spaces in Poland with the aim of providing environmentally friendly, efficient logistics and distribution buildings. Jeremy, welcome to the show.
Nice to be here. Thank you for having me.
Thank you very much. Now, Jeremy, to kick us off, I noticed on the website that pretty much the first message that appears is your tagline, Building for Goods. As a way of introducing MDC² to our audience, what does Building for Goods mean in terms of how your approach differs to those of other businesses in your sector?
Okay, so it's a very simple tagline, Building for Goods. Obviously, the goods, first and foremost, that's the commodities and the products that our tenants and our customers have.
Yeah.
But the sort of wider, let's say, higher concept of good is to try and do things in a more sustainable, environmentally friendly fashion, with higher quality to deliver more efficient results, obviously for buildings for ourselves, and then those buildings as better places for our customers and tenants to work and to operate in.
Okay, so a little bit maybe more about what does that look in reality, because when we talk about warehouse spaces, the first thing that pops into most people's minds is, especially if they're environmentally aware, is the potential negative impact that they have if done not in the right way, on factors such as biodiversity, water resource, further intensive development they cause, etc. Now, is this a fair challenge for the sector? And is there another side to it? How would you overcome such objections?
Yeah, look, I think it's a very fair question, and I think there's a lot of carbon that's produced and used in the building of and then the operations of industrial buildings.
Yeah.
But look, I think there's a right way to do things, and there's a wrong way to do things. Yeah. And this is about trying to build a successful economy moving forwards for Poland. And every economy, a key pillar is modern, sustainable development centers and a supply chain, right?
Yeah.
And that supply chain is not just about buildings in isolation. Mm-hmm. It's about their interconnectivity with the other buildings around them, how the clients use those buildings. But it's also about fulfilling part of, let's say, climate change criteria, which is an EU-driven directive. It's also a Poland-driven directive. And it's important that we understand that what we build within that paradigm is of the highest quality that we possibly can build, is as rated as high as we possibly can rate it, so that it delivers on quantifiable measures a building that is more efficient and hopefully more cheaper for our tenants and our customers to use.
Yeah, there are, as you say, it is a challenge, but there is a lot of potential that warehouse spaces can offer, especially with we were talking backstage about the rooftops and the fact that there is so much space available to be used as a potential energy source. Yeah. So maybe your view on that? Yeah,
so a long time ago someone told me, they said, look, it's all about the solar, stupid, right? So if you start with solar, you can pretty much do everything else that you need to do. Mm-hmm. I think that's especially true in Poland, where we have a very carbon-heavy grid, 85% coal and lignite fired. Solar as, let's say, a general input into that grid system is important, but still quite small. Mm-hmm. So your mix coming back out, if you're buying green energy as a tenant, I think it's difficult to really track where your energy is coming from. Is it really green? So the easy solution, the best solution, is put it on the roof or ground mount it in the park if you have space. So that you actually have direct, either, let's say, rooftop to tenant energy supply. And that's verifiable, quantifiable, renewable energy from solar panels.
I guess that helps as well with making Poland more energy independent as well in the current crisis that we are all in.
Absolutely.
It's important to make Poland as energy independent as quickly as possible, and solar is one of the answers to that.
Yeah, it's part of the mix. Yeah. So but it's quite a long road. to get to, but we have to start somewhere, right? Absolutely. So every journey starts with the first step. So solar is a huge part of where we can be. you need wind as well, storage technologies and grid distribution. These are all wider issues, which are all really important parts of the mix. But keeping it about real estate and buildings, it really is about if you can put it on the roof, if you can put it on the ground, and you can deliver, let's say, percentage-wise, 25-50% of your total energy consumption requirements, you can deliver that from a locally sourced renewable energy point, then you've gone a long, long way. And I think as technologies improve, as the regulatory environment improves in Poland, you'll be able to install more and have higher capacity. So you really then can move to basically sort of like carbon neutrality in your operations of your buildings.
And that gives you a competitive advantage as well.
It does. But I'm also a firm believer that no one actually owns this space. But if you can lead in the space and try and show a better way forwards, a better way of doing things, I think that's the best place to be. It's an open door. Everyone should be doing this, right? So it's no one should be better than others ultimately. Some are going to be better than others now, and I think it's part of leading the way and saying, look, you can implement, you can include, and you can deliver buildings which are of a much, much higher standard, and they're economically viable, but they fulfill a significant amount of the environmental criteria that governments are looking for, that banks and lenders are looking for, because this is also another really important point. Banks and lenders now, it's a key criteria, and this like ESG is a huge part of their assessment of their lending process to partners. And the E part is, I guess, it's kind of the easy part. That's what everyone is talking about at the moment. But the S and the G are also incredibly important, and especially the G at the moment, the governance side of it, right? So governance is really about structuring your company and running it in an open and transparent manner that is aligned with the investors, so that the investors can see through your process that they are actually getting what you say they're going to get. And that is incredibly important. In the conversations that we're having more and more, especially in the last few months, the G part of the ESG is becoming more prevalent in those discussions.
Now, in your communication, it does seem that you place a lot of focus on the subject you just raised. So how does this vision translate into concrete examples? What are the KPIs that you place upon your business? And can you share with us some interesting case studies or supporting data?
So I think key elements of buildings, obviously the sustainability criteria is manifested with the solar. So you see solar, the installation of solar in the buildings. You have electric car charging points available for vehicles being used in and around the site. Green walls is also a component. Beehives, insect nests, etc., within the wider area. Wildflower meadows instead of grass. It's a great thing because it's actually much easier to maintain. So you have less people actually having to come out and cut grass, so there's no fuel being burned doing that, and guys traveling back and forth in their vans to do so. And also living hedgerows are also a really important part because they're a great habitat for small animals, insects, etc. So those things all combined, I think they create an impact from an actual deliverables perspective, but I think also it's extremely important that it creates a much more benign work environment for the people working in the parks, and that's great for the customers as well, because staff retention is also a huge issue in this industry at this point in time, and it's probably that's a problem that's not going to go away. So to create a better working environment is really important. So within all of that landscaping and those sort of deliverables that we offer, we also have outdoor gyms and rest and relaxation and wellness areas. So people, at lunch breaks, on their split shifts, coming out, they've actually got somewhere to go. Obviously, assuming the weather's like it is today, they've got somewhere to go and relax and actually feel a little bit better, rather than sort of being in a fenced-in kind of concrete jungle. Which is a lot of what people have to work in, which is, I think it can be for the psychological benefit and well-being of the people working day to day on these sites. I think that's also an extremely important deliverable.
It's great that you appreciate these important issues in terms of building the right environment for the people that are going to use them at the end of the day. And in terms of concrete examples, what projects are you working on that do some of the elements of what you're talking about?
So we've got a project coming forward at the moment in Gliwice, which is funded with Invesco. And Invesco are actually an incredibly proactive ESG-focused investor.
Okay.
And they've raised their levels across all of their building sectors to try and achieve excellent level standard wherever they are. So that building will deliver solar. It will deliver green walls. It will deliver, it will deliver, let's say, the wildflower meadows, the insect nests, the beehives, living hedgerows, etc.
Great. Sounds like a really interesting project to keep an eye on.
It's a great project, and we're really excited about it. And it will be rated BREEAM Excellent New Construction, and it will be the highest rated building in Poland built to date.
Impressive stuff. Now, there is increasing pressure on all organizations to measure their carbon emissions more diligently, and then take action to try and reduce their carbon footprints with the goal of reaching net zero as soon as possible.
Yeah.
And how far has MDC² progressed on this path?
Yeah, so this is a challenge for everyone, because it's the methodology and the metrics of measurement are there and they're available, and ostensibly at the moment it's more about offsetting what you're doing rather than taking an approach. So we have people driving all over the place, looking at sites, going to meetings, etc. So that obviously is a concern for us, and we are starting to measure our use of fuel and how that impacts our overall carbon footprint as a business, but then on individual projects as we move deeper into projects and the movements around those projects, air travel, etc. These sorts of things need to be measured as well. But I think it's really important to look at the approach of avoid, reduce, offset.
Yes.
Right. So if you can get into your mindset and your operational day-to-day running of your buildings and your business, if you actively exclude as much as you possibly can, that's half the battle, right? And then once you're into your operationals, then there's further reductions which are then available within that, and then you're left with a much smaller offset component to what you're doing. So offsetting is great, but offsetting, I think, can also be like too much of a crutch for a lot of companies. And it's an easy thing to say, I'm planting X thousand square meters of forests, and it's an easy win and it's a nice headline. So I think it's more important to go deeper than that and actively manage where you are at the beginning, where you are in the middle, and then reduce that level of offset. And offset will always need to be there at a certain level. And that's an important component, but I think it's really important to understand what really is feasible with regards to offset.
Trying to make this offsetting component as small as possible.
Absolutely right. Absolutely right.
We've talked a lot about the E, and you've highlighted the importance of the S and the G within the ESG framework. So my last question concerns your social responsibility activities and how these activities are linked together through efficient corporate governance. So what would you define the values of MDC² are, and how do you manifest them to the world, and what control measures do you have in place? Yeah,
okay, it's a good question. So we have values at MDC², which are perhaps not sort of typical in as they're not sort of encapsulated in like a 3 or 4 line statement, but basically, so it's fairness and empowerment. We have fun and balance. Trust and freedom. So those perhaps are some unusual words for people with regards to company values, but they really form how we run our business, how we work with our colleagues internally, how we work with our partners externally. And so, the empowerment, for example, is, we trust people that they're capable in terms of what they're doing. We don't work in a blame culture. We work in a culture where ideas are there to be, put out in the open, discussed, and you get to a point where, you have an actionable item. And, and then fun and balance is extremely important for us, because we have to have fun at work. We need to make sure that, when we have to work hard, we work hard, but then when we have a little bit of downtime, that we appreciate that as well. And also it's the balance between work life and family life. And there's a couple of things that we've done as a company, which are, I think, pretty innovative and really, really interesting. So one of them is we've given the whole company an additional week off.
Oh, wow.
Which is at the beginning of the school summer holidays. So everyone shuts down.
Wonderful.
So everyone gets that extra family time. And then we've also put together something that we call $1 million for $1 million. So when we get to 1 million square meters of built space, or each time we get to 1 million square meters of built space, we take €1 million and we put it on the table for all of the staff in the business, minus the partners obviously, to share in equally.
Wow, that seems very generous.
Yeah, so I think what that does, it really sort of helps people engage in terms of what we're doing as a business, and it helps
build the right culture.
Build the culture. People are focused and they understand that each time we're successful, we're building towards a goal, and that there is not only a sense of pride and achievement and fulfillment in achieving that goal, but there's a commercial reward, a financial reward for that as well. And I think that's the fair thing to do.
Absolutely.
Because it's, no one person is going to achieve these things on their own. We're a team, a reasonably small team, but a kind of a high-powered, well-experienced, really closely knit team. And I think the idea is that to have everyone participate in and benefit from the success of the company is really important for us.
A healthy workspace is also an efficient workspace. So it's great that you appreciate that.
Yeah.
Jeremy, I could talk to you all day, but sadly that is all we have time for today. And so I wish you all the best in your projects.
Thank you.
And I hope we can welcome you again sometime
Love
in
to
the
come
future.
back. Yeah.
In the meantime, if any of you would like any follow-up information about the work done by Jeremy and his wonderful team, then please get in touch with us and we'll direct you to the right person. Finally, we are always on the lookout for inspiring ESG business cases to explore. And if this sounds like something your company is involved in, then please get in touch. We would love to hear from you. Thank you very much for watching, and see you again soon. Goodbye.